Aloha mai nei kako o Tracie Keolalani Keia. In this video, I'll be going over the 7 best ways to learn a language, either a new language or a foreign language. And stay till the end where I'll give you the number 1 thing that holds people back from actually learning that language. As an FYI, most of you already know that I speak Hawaiian. However, these 7 things can be used for any language that you're learning, not just Hawaiian. So let's get started. Helu ekahi, number 1. So the number 1 best way to learn a language is to learn vocabulary. In Hawaiian, the word for vocabulary is hua olelo. And hua literally means fruit, and olelo means language. So the fruit of any language is its vocabulary, its words. Now let me give you an example. Back when I was in high school, I took 3 years of Spanish. And you're like, wait, I thought you just said you speak Hawaiian. I do. Now, back in high school, however, they didn't offer Hawaiian. They only offered Japanese, Spanish, and French. And so I took Spanish because Hawaiian wasn't an option. So I wanted to get on my soapbox right now because you know that Hawaiian language is very important to me. And I believe that in Hawaii, every student should learn Hawaiian. Hawaiian is the home language of these islands. If you watch this video that I made with my friend Kaipo'i Kelling, you'll see why Hawaiian is not the main language of these islands. And that's a travesty of justice. All right, so back to my example. So I said that I spoke Spanish in high school, right? I also spoke Spanish in college. I took 4 years in college. And I went on exchange to Mexico, and I lived in a town with a family called Cuernavaca. And when I was in Cuernavaca, I started to speak with the people so I could get immersed in that language to learn it better, right? And one of the things I realized was when I would go to the restaurants or I would go around, you didn't really need to know how to speak the language if you knew vocabulary. So let me explain. So let's just say I'm in Cuernavaca and I cannot speak Spanish, but I know some vocabulary words, right? I'm in a restaurant and I want to ask, where's the bathroom? But I don't know how to say in Spanish, ¿Dónde está el baño? I don't know how to say that, where's the bathroom? The only word I know is baño, bathroom, right? If I say baño to somebody, what would they do? They'll point me in the direction of the baño, the bathroom. Vocabulary. That's why vocabulary is very important. Whenever you're wanting to learn a language, vocabulary. I tell my students, hua olalo, hua olalo, hua olalo. Vocabulary is so important. Mai kai. Helu elua, number 2. It is learn the rules of the target language. And the target language is the language that you're trying to learn. All right? In Hawaiian, that is ea'o I na lula. Learn the rules. What's the rules? When you're learning another language, there are rules that you have to follow. There's sentence patterns and ways that words are put together so that they make sense in that language. So, have you ever heard somebody who's a foreigner speak your language? Maybe they have an accent, or maybe some of the words that they say, they don't put it together right and it sounds funny? That's right. That's because they're not a native speaker of your language and it doesn't sound right to you because they're not following the rules. Just like in sports. So growing up, I was a real tomboy, and my favorite subject in elementary school was PE. And PE, I loved PE because number 1, I like to play sports with the boys, like I have a lot of boy cousins, and I understood the rules of the game. And so when you understand the rules of a game, it's fun and it makes sense. So in softball, there's rules. There's also structure. You need to know the positions, right? There's the pitcher, the catcher, first base, second, third base, shortstop, outfield, all of that stuff, right? You need to know the structure of it, but you also need to know how to score, how to win the game. Let's go through an example in the Hawaiian language. So say, for example, I wanted to say, look this guy. I wanted to say flamingo. But I wanted to say pink flamingo, right? So the word for flamingo is palamiko. And the word for pink is akala. So in English, you would say pink flamingo. But in Hawaiian, you wouldn't say akala palamiko or akala for pink and palamiko for flamingo. The rule is the noun comes first, which is the thing, the palamiko, and the thing that describes it, which is called an adjective, or the color, pink, see, the palamiko is pink, comes after. So it would be palamiko akala, right? Pink flamingo. That's the rules for when you say a noun and an adjective. Does that make sense? Mapopo? By the way, if you want to learn the colors, I have a colors teaching series and I will put the link below. It's on Udemy and on Thinkific. Helu ekolu, number 3. So the number 3 best way to learn a language is to listen. Ho'olohe. Now think about when you were a baby time, or think about a baby that you know, right? What are they doing? They cannot talk when they're babies. All they can do is listen. Because they cannot speak, they're forced to ho'olohe, to listen. And that's all they're doing. They're listening to their mommy speak, their daddy speak, their brothers, their sisters, their aunties, their uncles, their cousins. That's all they're doing, right? They're not going to a class, coming to Kumu's class, mine, and I'm teaching them, hey, let me teach you this noun and adjective pattern. Let me teach you pepeke aikeo, this sentence pattern, so that you can say a sentence. No, that's not how they learn. They learn by listening. Ho'olohe. Maikai. So let's move on. Helu eha, number 4. And the 4th best way to learn a language is speaking. Olelo. And you said, wait, I thought olelo means a language. Yes, it does. But olelo also means to speak. And because you learn a language through speaking, right? Speaking what? Speaking your vocab words, you're speaking, songs, you're listening to songs, but you're speaking it, you're aiming for your target language. That's your bullseye. So if my target is Hawaiian, I'm going to want to target finding people that will help me to learn Hawaiian. Back when I was in college, it was my kumu, my teacher, Puhi, and my friends. I had 2 really good friends that I was learning Hawaiian with. Maile and my other friend, Kealohi. And we were learning together, we were speaking together. Every time we came together, we would speak to each other in Hawaiian. And that really accelerated my ability to be able to speak Hawaiian. Make sense? Maupopo? Helu elima, number 5. The 5th best way to learn a language is to practice. And that word in Hawaiian is ho'oma'ama'a. Ho'oma'ama'a, to practice, right? Ma'a means to get used to. So ho'oma'ama'a, you are in the process of getting familiar with something. You're getting used to something. What are you getting used to? What are you learning? You're learning the language. That's your target, right? So let me give you an example about practice, because practice is very, very necessary. I'm gonna tell you one story. In my classroom, I get one podium, right? In my class, one podium that I stand at and I teach the students from my podium. So my podium in my classroom is all hamajang, the thing a little bit crooked. It's kind of like, it's wobbly. It doesn't work so good. It's brand new, but it doesn't work so good. Why? Because when I put it together, I have a hard time building things. I'm not a builder, right? I'm not a construction worker. So it came in this box, my podium, with instructions. And when I put it together, I didn't do a good job. It took me like an hour to probably do a 5-minute job that somebody that practices ho'oma'ama'a, building things, would have took 5 minutes to do. But for me, because I don't practice building things, it took me like 1 hour. So one day, one of my students, I put my laptop on top of my podium, and the thing was so wobbly, the laptop went fall over. So my students, 3 of my boy students, they're like, Kumu, can we fix your podium today? So I was like, yeah, go try them. So they're over there trying to fix the podium, and they go, you're missing some pieces, Was there extra screws that came inside the box? And I was like, I don't know. They're like, where's the box with the instructions? I'm like, I'm in Choma way. And they're like, okay, well, maybe we can MacGyver something, but you get extra screws. And I was like, they're like, you get extra screws. How about one electric drill? You get one electric drill. And I'm like, I don't want screws. I don't want electric drill. I don't want woodshop teacher. I want Hawaiian teacher. And they were like, yeah, we can't fix it. And I was like, see, I told you, can't fix it. So anyways, the moral of this story is ho'oma'ama'a, to practice, right? A builder practices building. Me, I practice speaking Hawaiian. And the more you practice ho'oma'ama'a, the better you get at it. So if you get one podium that's already assembled that you'll give to me, just send them to my school. Because if I gotta put them together, not gonna work. Okay? Let's move on. Helu eono, number 6. So the 6th best way to learn a language is time, komanava. What does that mean? You need to be clear about how much time it will take you in order for you to accomplish your goal of reaching that target language and speaking that target language. How much time will you need to invest? In language, it's called what level of fluidity do you want to get to? So fluidity means how flowing do you want to be at the language? Do you want to be your words to be like a native speaker? You want to speak like that? You want to be really good, right? So at the lowest level of fluidity, it's called low fluidity. And you want to, know some vocab words. You want to know a few things, a couple phrases, a couple idioms, a couple maybe small sentence patterns here and there. You want to be able to pronounce the language. You're pretty low, right? So as far as time or manava, you probably don't need a whole lot of time spent in order to get to that low level of fluidity. Maybe a couple hours here and there. Mid-level, that is higher than that low fluidity, right? You want to be able to speak a little bit better. So you're going to have to know more vocab words. You're going to have to be able to know more sentence patterns. You're going to have to practice. You're going to have to do a little bit more or maybe a lot more in order to get to that mid-range of fluidity. Probably a couple hours a day, maybe 1 or 2 hours a day. You're practicing your vocabulary, ho'oma'ama'a. You're doing all those things that I went over, right? Numbers 1 through 5. You're doing it mid-level. How about the high level of fluidity? You want to be at a high level of fluidity, let's just say. That is, you're able to speak like a native speaker. You're able to hold a conversation with somebody else that speaks Hawaiian. Like, you want to do all these things. You want to be able to speak, okay? That's going to take you a lot of time, manava. And you're going to have to be practicing every day, couple of hours a day, practice. And that's going to take you a lot of time. Let me give you an example. So this is about sports because I told you that I love sports. So my favorite documentary on Netflix is called The Last Dance. It's about Michael Jordan. I probably watched it about 50 times maybe. I watch it every time I need inspiration. In that documentary, they show his preparation, they show all he does, all his time spent. Well, there was an interview that I saw with one of his former teammates called BJ Armstrong. And BJ Armstrong talks about the legendary work ethic of Michael Jordan. Okay? This relates to manava. Let me tell you what he said. Quote, "Everyone talks about the GOAT, but watching The Last Dance was just the tip of the iceberg. What it didn't show you was his preparation was far superior to any player that I've ever seen. It wasn't his fadeaway jump shot. It wasn't his footwork. It wasn't his will to win at all. All of those things that we love to talk about. His preparation for the game was far superior." So that means he spent a lot of time, manava. And in order to become fluid or in order to become great at whatever it is that you love to do, it's going to require a lot of time. Helu e hiku, number 7. The 7th best way to learn a language, and to me, probably the most important, is face to face. Yeah? Ikemaka. You're looking at each person, you're talking to that person, you're learning from that kumu, you're right in their face, you're in their class. I mentioned it when I talked about the previous things, ekolu number 3 and eha number 4, but it bears repeating. When you get face to face with somebody or face to face with a person who speaks that target language that you want to learn, it's very powerful. It is the most powerful way to learn something. My 2 daughters, when they were in preschool, they went to a Hawaiian immersion preschool, meaning that their teachers spoke to them in Hawaiian. Every day, my daughters are seeing ikemaka, they're hearing ho'olohe, they're speaking, olelo, they're smelling, hanu. They're getting all of the senses are immersed with that target language, So face-to-face to me is by far most important. Now, don't get me wrong. Whatever you can use to learn your language, use it. Some of my students, my adult students, said they took Duolingo, they're taking online classes, they're listening to music, like Hawaiian music. Don't stop any of those things. Add those things in. But what I'm saying is face-to-face is most important, right? Think about when you want to get to know somebody. You want to spend time with them. That's important. Should you just talk on the phone? Should you just text? Whatever. That's one way. But when you get with them, you get to them, you see them, you can touch them, you can smell them, you can hear them. All of those things, face to face, is so important, right? Cha'as mantai te'o. There you go. Also, if you want that free Hawaiian, I have a free Hawaiian conversation PDF. Just go to my website, subscribe to the newsletter, and then you can get that free PDF for the Hawaiian conversation. All right, so I hope you enjoyed those 7 things, the 7 best ways to learn a language. Now let's go through the number 1 thing that holds people back from learning a language. And I think you probably already know it because it is fear. I learned an acronym a long time ago that spells out fear, F-E-A-R, right? And it's false evidence appearing real. Basically what it is you're afraid of things that maybe might not even happen. You're just afraid. You're feeling afraid inside. What are you afraid of? People are afraid to make mistakes. So in Hawaiian, when you're learning to speak, you're gonna make plenty of mistakes. And people don't I don't like make, I'm gonna be ashamed. Even in my classroom, people your ego is involved. You don't make mistakes. But it's in the mistakes, it's in the adversities in life, that's the place where true growth happens, right? True living happens. Who wants perfect people? Come on. And I know a person long time ago when I was in college, and that person was also taking Hawaiian language with me. And so the guy said, you know what? I don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm not going to speak. And we were like, okay, well, you kind of gotta, if you're learning Hawaiian and you're taking this class, you kind of gotta practice. But he was like, I don't make any mistakes when I'm speaking, so I'm just not going to speak. And I thought, oh boy, this guy, you're not going to learn Hawaiian. None of my business. I always tell myself that. None of your business. But sure enough, by the end of that quarter, by the end of that semester, he was real hesitant about speaking Hawaiian, and the rest of us, we're just talking, you're making mistakes, any kind, right? And we got much further than him because we were okay making mistakes and he was not. So if you're learning a language, especially if you're learning Hawaiian is so important to me. That is what I've devoted my life to, is to teaching Hawaiian. And so if you're learning Hawaiian, I really appreciate you. If you're learning other languages, that's great. I'm glad you're doing it for yourself. Do it. You need it. If that's what you want to do it. And lastly, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something, and I will see you next time. Ahui ho.